Hospitality Meets is brought to you by RotaCloud, the simple workforce management software for hospitality teams. RotaCloud lets you create and share rotas, record attendance, and manage your team's annual leave, all in less time than it takes to make a brew. It can also make life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request holiday, and even pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be. Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is Chris Davies, Chief Executive Officer of flexible office legends Uncommon. Coming up on today's show, Chris has an interesting university experience.
Well, we were basically threatened with university ASBOs within the first... I think this might be year 2 actually.
Phil experiences an identity upgrade. I'm not going to lie, I feel a little bit like Stephen Bartlett. And Chris questions why he came on the show.
How are we here? What?
All that and so much more as we chat through Chris's epic journey so far. This chat has it all. Some amazing stories and a mountain of leadership gold. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a like and a share wherever you can. Enjoy. And a massive Hospitality Meets welcome to Chris Davies.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
Good. Been on a good start to the day. The sun is shining.
We've already had an hour together.
Yep.
Just chatting stuff.
Covered all topics, so we don't need to do the podcast.
We have. Well, we'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Thanks
for coming on the show. Yeah. Cheers. But yes, well, for the uninitiated, just tell the world what it is that you do and who you are.
Chris Davies. I am CEO of Uncommon, which is a flexible office brand that is very focused on trying to create the best office space that I can, but we very much take a hospitality slant to what we do, and we try and borrow many things from the hospitality world. That's been in our DNA since day one. So probably why I'm here, not least of all because I've met you before, but that's probably why we're having a nice little chat.
Oh, well, indeed. And I obviously have been the benefactor of your services, having been based in your offices for the best part of 18 months now, which is quite frightening. And I can kind of vouch for the experience as well, that hospitality element that you're getting. All of the team that I've ever come across are super engaged. We were talking actually before we turned the microphone on around, there's a real hospitality DNA around having a sensory experience as well. And actually, this is my first time we're recording in your podcast studio in Fulham today.
Yep.
I've never made it down this far. I had a nosebleed coming this far south, to be frank. But what a space you have. But also, as I was approaching the door, I smelt Uncommon. That was like my brain went straight back to the site in Holborn, which is where I'm normally based. And so I love that. You kind of immediately know that you're in Uncommon before you know you're in an Uncommon.
Yeah, it's very deliberate. Whether that is it's done through this kind of the sensory side of things. So some people may pick up on the smells, and some might pick up on the lighting, some might pick up on the design. What we won't do is a site that looks identical to another site. Like where our Fulham looks different to our Highbury site, our Liverpool Street, like our Holborn site. Borough, I'm naming them all at this point.
Well, you take the opportunity.
Yeah, there you go. But you should feel like you're in an uncommon space, and that is very deliberate. So if we get all of that right, you don't have to have a massive logo on the door. That's not where a brand really lives. Like if a brand has to live in kind of everything that goes on within the space, not just, as I say, the logo on the door that tells you and it looking identical. I think there is that kind of anti-stream of like, okay, people like the consistency maybe of a Starbucks, McDonald's, and they just rolled out the same thing globally. And then you've got Starbucks as the example that have spent a fortune trying to Un-Starbucks-ise. That's definitely not a word.
It is now.
It is now.
Yeah.
Their spaces and try and make them a bit more authentic to that location. So if I take designing Holborn, that was trying to take a building. So to explain, this is a over 100,000 square foot building in just near Holborn Tube Station. That was a TfL used to be located there, MOD originally, built in the 50s, that we had to completely gut everything on there in the building, but we went back to the concrete frame. We didn't knock anything over. That's a big part of our business, is to redevelop in a sympathetic way, trying to reuse, not just demolish and create shiny new boxes.
Yeah.
So we approached that building and said, well, what's already in the building? They had the most amazing doors that have these lions on, that were original. Then even down to on every kind of window shelf as you go out the building was a terrazzo style stone that we were like, let's just make sure we keep that. And then we've echoed that through the brand new flooring that we had to lay. And it's taking those design cues and then running those through to make it what is very, but it's not just sympathetic to building, but it's very authentic to what was already there, that then feels authentic, and while then putting the uncommon overlay so that people feel like when they go between each site, they know it feels right, when they may not be able to put their finger on why.
Yeah. So it's almost like you have a kind of uncommon DNA, but equally you're going to also like take in where you are in the world as well. So what you might have in Fulham, as an example, would be different from what you would have in Holborn, because you're in a different part of the world.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this space, in fact, because having a podcast studio is quite cool. Being able to do this in person like this, I'm not going to lie, I feel a little bit like Stephen Bartlett.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. No, it's with the company down here. They've hired out. It was a great idea that they came up with, that we thought, well, it's an interesting one for us, because I'm very clear that we create office space, whether that goes on to us doing other things in the future. Like, I've got long held aspirations to one day design a hotel and have a hotel, but
I've made a note of that, actually.
Later. But what we do today, I'm very focused on us trying to deliver the best office experience that we can. And it starts to drift when you start focusing on other things. Like, people in our space have tried doing restaurants, have tried doing gyms, have tried doing many things that is really ancillary to the core purpose of what we're there for. And I think there are, taking the gym example, like, we can go and put a full gym somewhere, but then there are, I don't know, 6 different gyms around that cater for the needs of a gym goer far better, because some might want to be very price focused, some might want the luxury experience. And London, that definitely, you turn left and there's a different gym to going right. So we're very clear on what we're trying to do. So taking it back to the podcast thing, like, this is, we'd have to do this with someone supporting for it to be logical, because otherwise we're kind of straying off into, we probably wouldn't do it properly. And I think that's very true for many businesses. You're either in this world and you're doing it properly and that's your focus, or you're not.
Yeah, totally. And we just say as well, sponsored today by Berries from the
cafe.
Cafe.
The team here do amazingly well from the cafe perspective.
Yeah.
Now they do amazingly well anyway.
Yeah, for sure, and that is the same experience in Holborn as well. So I'm a big fan of having been able to use your facilities over the last 18 months, as I say. But there's obviously a story of how you got there in the first place, which I'd love to explore. So I'm going to take you all the way back to school, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah, and how did your career start presenting itself in terms of was there a moment where you, because we've spoken as well off microphone before around our yellow energies, and that we can be motivated by one thing in a second and motivated by something else in the next second, which as a kid is a difficult energy to really hone and focus in. I say that as a voice of experience. But yeah, so how did your career start manifesting itself in terms of your direction?
Yeah, so using your yellow energy comment, like, it's not, probably doesn't work best for you at school. They want you to be pretty focused on whatever that one task is, not learning spellings on a Friday. That was like torture to me. School wasn't the easiest from a academic point of view. I like you wasn't really that interested, because I didn't really see the point. Because why do I need to learn this chemistry thing? What thing does that have on my life? It was only when I got maybe into kind of the sixth form time, when I'm making choices, and maybe that's me being stubborn on things, but it's like as soon as I start to make my own choices, oh no, I want to do a business A level, I want to do a whatever it was, it then was like, oh no, well, I've chosen this, so therefore I will be good at this.
Yeah.
And then I will dig in, and actually then everything started to become easier, and I actually started to get better grades. So
funny how it works.
Yeah,
really?
that's shock.
Yeah.
If someone had told me that,
I know. Well, they're not going to tell you that.
Yeah. But it was definitely it was only the latter part of school that it actually got any easier into university, that I then started kind of excelling from that point. Certainly sub 16 didn't feel easy for me at all. And I wasn't that interested. It was all kind of sports related stuff. And it was like business stuff was already starting to show up. And I was like, well, how do I get to doing those things? And like, I kind of like watch Bloomberg every once in a while and think, oh, stocks, what does that mean? And try and learn things like that. Look at property was like popping up around there. My dad was quite entrepreneurial from that point of view. So I was always interested in that side. And it's only later that you then get into subjects that could go there.
Yeah.
University started, I then had, with a friend, we started a sportswear business, because where that really started was we thought we could sell the freshers, so the first week students, jumpers for an obscene amount of profit, which basically ended us up getting some
modern day capitalism.
Well, we were basically threatened with like university ASBOs within the first, like, I think this might be year 2 actually, that we were told we promptly can't do that. So the pivot quickly was, well, can we do sportswear? Can we sell people that? And then that started. A company called Stash Monkey was born. We then got sued for using the word stash by a company called Stash.
Oh, right.
That was an interesting moment in time to learning. I mean, obviously we're students, we had no money, so it's like, well, okay. Can't pay a lawyer.
Yeah, so we'll just
change the name. We just changed the name. Okay. That was an easier thing to do. My friends did once then send me another letter claiming that we were infringing on the new company name, Flare Monkey, but they sent it to an address that I didn't get to for a month. That then basically I ended up reacting, I wouldn't say particularly well.
Really? I wonder why.
So that's that letter I still have from my own mates trying to wind me up at university days.
Mates will be mates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that actually we did sell that. That then paid for me to do a property masters, because I thought, well, I better go and do something else, and this property thing seems a good idea. Then eventually got into fast forwarding, had to do a load of internships, was told a lot that I had no commitment to the industry because I didn't do a summer internship for 2 weeks to one of the big companies, which I found mildly offensive considering I had been working for myself and built a company. I'm still offended by that. And
you're writing a book.
Yeah, and it's a short book.
Yeah.
It just says still offended.
I mean, that would sell.
It probably would.
Yeah.
Managed to get in through a contact through which wasn't quite nepotism but it was like I just had to try and find a way in somewhere, and then they kept me for a bit. Then that kind of then led into doing the whole grad scheme thing, but I did realize I didn't want to be anyone at that company that I did all my qualifications at, so led to, okay, well, I'm gonna go back to the kind of more entrepreneurial world. I realized I don't want to be part of a massive company. I don't think I'll ever want to do that. It just gets too much for me in the sense of whether it's bureaucracy, whether it's, it just doesn't suit maybe my yellow energy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this a lot today, aren't we? Yeah. The yellow energy. No, but I hear you. I mean, and that's half the battle, though, isn't it? In the midst of trying to create something for yourself, it's also understanding what doesn't fit you. It's not just about what does. And sometimes you've got to try these things in order to understand, okay, well, no, that's not my world at all. But also, like, it's almost a case of two-fingered salute to the people who said, oh, you can't come and do this unless you do an intern.
Yes.
Even though, as you say, you've already garnered life experience as well, which we never talk about the value of that in relation to somebody's skill set. It's still baffling, isn't it? It baffles me that there are still massive organizations that you have to do things a certain way if you want to come and work here.
yeah, and be part of that, I guess, gang to continue it. Yeah, I didn't last very long there.
No.
And to be fair, I think lots of people have moved on and done other things from there. So look, it's a grad scheme. This is what they're kind of set up for and to do. But you just need to make choices.
Yeah.
If it's not for you, it's not for you. Just take the learnings and move on.
Yeah. So, did the desire to want to learn more about property come from the fact that your father was in the business, so you had a little bit of kind of inside knowledge in that respect?
Yeah, I think it was that and watching Sarah Beeny. Exactly. She had all those property shows that it always interested me. The kind of renovating houses type thing. Go and buy it at an auction and off you go. I've never bought a house at an auction.
I dread to think how many children she has, by the way, because she was always pregnant in every show. I think.
I don't know. There you go. One to look up.
No, indeed. I'm not going to look.
Yeah. We'll just leave that one. But no, I'd always had a genuine interest in it, and space in general and what could be created. I think that was just the first outlet or the first environment that you see it. Residential, everyone has a view. That's the interesting thing about it. Like, everyone lives somewhere, so everyone has a view on it. Hence why it's quite an interesting topic for many people, whether it's house market prices moving, rental prices moving, can you live here, can you do that, overdevelopment. It's never really underdevelopment that people get upset with.
That's very true. I never thought about that until this very precise moment. And I mean, that's where the NIMBY phraseology probably comes from, right? The world can go and develop itself, but just not here.
Just not here.
Yeah.
No, there's I have some interesting conversations on that exact topic, and it's just, what do you say? Like, Heathrow development of the next runway, like, it's an emotive topic to people. I get it, but we also live in central London. Of course, there's going to be planes everywhere. It's like, we've got choices to make on all of this.
Yeah, well, there's a recurring theme coming through here. Choices,
lots of choices.
Yeah,
be 51% certain and make your choice.
Well, that's a really good topic, actually, because that's another thing we were talking about. How many things did we speak about before we even came in here? By the way, we've used all the good material already. This is going to be a really boring podcast now, isn't it? But
sorry.
The 51% thing was I thought really interesting, and that's actually it's a very entrepreneurial mindset thing, I would say, because I think the phraseology that you used was around why do we need to wait until we get to 80% certainty, which is probably going to take us way longer to get to, because I don't know, we need several other people to come on the journey before we can kind of contemplate it. When you've got 51%, you've got the democratic vote basically to just go, let's do this. And okay, if it doesn't work, we can roll it back or we can adapt or whatever, but let's not paralyze ourselves through inactivity.
Yeah, I think it's people need to think of time as a resource, and when you start having that time resource piece on an equal footing, maybe with actual like financial, then you start to go, okay, well, actually that other, so many people will wait for 100% certainty before they do anything, let alone the 80%. And the problem with that is that that's cost you, and they don't quite understand. Okay, well, you're now certain that you won't make a mistake. Okay, but you've lost, whether that you kind of monetize, or you're trying to work out the quantity of value of that 49%. But if you just lost all of that time, when actually probably the decision could be rolled back if it is wrong anyway, and all you've done is bought yourself time and got yourself further ahead, and nothing's really that permanent. Of course, there are certain decisions, maybe wait a little bit longer and try and really work that out, but a decision has to be made. Like, in our world, it's about, if we think about, I don't know, about the vacancy of space, like, that costs us a lot when we're trying to utilize and rentalize that space. Like, are you better off having a new member join us sooner than risk it being empty for longer? And there's an element in that. Of course, we've got to hit targets, we've got to hit budgets, we've got to see what the world is doing. But for me, it's all about making sure Uncommon stays that kind of entrepreneurial mindset. We've been going, and we'll be going 10 years really in January. So we're not a new company. We're not a startup company at all. We've never been set up that way. We've got private equity backers behind us. So we've had to act in a certain way, but yet I never want us to lose that. And I say it to the team quite a bit, where if we start behaving like a big business where we've got layers upon layers of decision making that isn't being made up, either the coal face, i.e. the team are doing it on kind of ground level day to day with people and they feel empowered to do that. And then if it is a bigger decision, we're then taking age to make it happen. Like, that's where companies die, because they're not moving forward. Whether that is like a big one at the moment, it's all this AI point that's going on.
So what's AI? Sorry.
Try it and see. But that's that. I know that's kind of difficult for people to say, and I'm sure lots of C-suite people are just turning to their tech team and saying, "Right, AI, implement it."
Yeah.
Without having any concept of that. Like, I try, and I drive the team mental. I think I've tried to learn as much and as quickly as possible by learning, breaking, trying. Probably upsetting the guy, he's called Lee, who's from the security side of the business. He's like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Well, okay, I'm going to try."
Whoops.
Yeah, I did it last week, Lee. So I'm really sorry. But the point is, it's like that, having that entrepreneurial mindset, just push, just try. If you're 51% certain, that's certain in terms of that range of, is more certain than uncertain.
Yeah.
So push and go. But that, I guess, you coming back to your yellow energy thing, that probably sits within that, or maybe a bit of red in there as well. That's more important to me, because I think you move faster knowing that you're going to break things and make mistakes. But I think that's what, say, a lot of the big tech companies do pretty well, and where the thinking really comes from.
Yeah, totally. I think that the other side of that is that you can be that kind of blunt force instrument, for want of a better phrase, in terms of, like, I have 51% certainty. That's the thing that I want to do. You've still got to be able to take people with you on that journey, right? Otherwise, that's just going to end in tears. Whatever way you look at it, you've got to be able to take people on the journey.
Yeah, and you've got to have the right team to do it.
Yeah.
That's the bit that I've definitely learnt and tried to make sure we really focus on as a business, and whether that comes from Jim Collins type right people on the bus type logic, or whether it comes from, I guess, just personal experience. But certainly in Uncommon, we're in the best place we've been ever, I think, but that's taken time. Like, it hasn't been, you don't just turn up and hire the right people to fit the team and think that's all great. And you certainly need to work on that and work out what gaps you have as a person. And I think, firstly, when I started doing the Uncommon side of things and making hiring decisions, I would definitely, like, I hate interviews. I'm awful at them, because I'll just sit there.
You're doing all right.
No, but and this comes down to the personality types. Like, I will have someone else in that room if I'm doing the interview, and I will say to them that I am just doing the personality fit point. I want to get to know the person. I'll play the person from that side. What I won't do is sit there and go through a list of questions that you have to, because that's kind of what making a fair interview is about. But that just kind of doesn't sit naturally with me. Hence why I think I'm awful at them. And this also comes from, like, I've made some mistakes where I'm like, I think this person could be good, but is exactly, maybe it's a in image type conversation rather than it being a person that's perfect for that role and perfect for our team.
Yeah.
So you've got to be very clear on what role you're hiring for, and also what type of person or type of personality. And we're doing increasingly more work on personality types within the company, and that's important, I think.
Yeah, you need them all, right? That's the thing. If you just had an organization full of yellow energies, my God, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
but would anything get done?
No,
indeed. But also, it's. I think that's part of most entrepreneurs' journeys over time, is that you learn these lessons because you're willing to try. So you're willing to put yourself into an interview, even though that might not be the thing that gets the best out of you, but you have to do it for the betterment of the business. And I think everybody makes that mistake at some point in their life as they're growing up, that what do I need in this business? Oh, I need another me. That's what I need, because I can do all of these things. But that's impossible and is not healthy. And in actual fact, this is something that comes up a lot more in discussions around leadership that I have across the industry, around the need for friction. And that's not aggressive friction, but it's very, very useful to a business to have it, as long as it's done with respect and, the fact that, yes, you can have your moment, but in the end, we will regroup after that moment and Chris will get his way.
I think the getting to a high performance team, we've done lots of work with third party coaches, and I've definitely been shown moments when we've not been, and you have to make changes on that. And sometimes that's hard because you're having conversations about people's lives, careers, etc., etc. But it's often in the individual's best interests, and also clearly it's for the company. But it might hurt in that interim piece until you get there, and it's only the other side of there, which I think thankfully Uncommon's in that place now, that it's been totally worth it. But it's just, you have to go through that pain. But I was chatting to someone who's runs a PE firm, and he was saying they constantly are doing the same thing, where they hire and then they keep people for 12 months longer than they should, and that's not good for either.
No, indeed. Well, nobody wants to be in a role where they feel like they're being dragged along, or being left behind, whatever that looks like. You're better where possible. It's obviously not always possible, but you're better where possible to cut that as quickly as possible, because it's not good for anybody in that scenario.
And we certainly don't get it fully right.
And do you know, the other thing that I've learned over the years as well is that everybody talks about culture, and how every business has a culture. It's what looks good and bad for people is different for everybody, like most other things. But generally speaking, people who want to build good culture, a good culture in an organization, you need diversity amongst your team. You need diversity of opinion, experience, the whole lot. It's just a very healthy place to be. I think we could probably all agree on that. But the big moment in that happens then as soon as one part of that culture leaves, one person leaves, that culture's changed forever. It's not just about having, like a set of values on a board somewhere that says this is who we are, and yes, I can get on board with that. I relate to that. That's great. But how people operate within that, and how they operate with each other, as soon as you take out one person at any level in that process, then the culture is changed forever. And I think a lot of organizations spend time, rightly or wrongly, I don't know if this is the answer, but trying to get back to that culture that we had.
Yeah.
That's impossible. You can't do that. The culture is what you have in play right now, and then a percentage will be removed. You bring in another percentage, and it's adapted slightly, and you've got to, it's a living, breathing thing. You've got to keep adapting with it. There's no question in there. I'm just trying to sound clever.
Brilliant.
5-star hospitality means having the right people in the right place at the right time, and that's exactly where RotaCloud can help. RotaCloud is the online platform that makes planning rotas, recording attendance, and managing annual leave easy. Its simple, drag-and-drop interface lets you create and share rotas with your team in minutes, while our built-in budgeting tools mean you'll know exactly how much you're spending on staffing before sending the rota out. RotaCloud also makes life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request time off, and pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be.
I think it's watching the company grow, watching Uncommon grow. We had a distinct culture, and I think they say it changed at 3 and at 33, and then I think the next change is like at 100 or something. But the point is, I think at roughly 30, it's, and I detest the word family being used because it's not the same thing. Like, we're a team. We are a team. We're not
Way more functional than most families.
Yeah, and families, you forgive everything and all of that type of logic, which is not the language that should be used around a business, because you don't make the hard decisions in a family environment in the same way. Of course you don't. Whereas we're very clear on that. But it acts at 30 and sub 30. You've got the interactions are so much more daily, and you see people in a different way. And I think the business has got very used to, say at that size, I'm very used to having me there all of the time in a certain way. And we suffer slightly from the fact that we're spread over 5 different buildings as a company. So I may not be coming down to Fulham every single day. I may not be going to the sites every single day. So we have a kind of unique element to our business around that. But it's definitely seen change when we've grown, and what worked when we were sub 30 doesn't work when you're, for us, over that size, in terms of it's not the same thing. The culture changes because it has to. It has. We've matured as a business. We're now circa 65 people, and that's a different place than when you're sub, is kind of my point.
Yeah. It's a very human thing, though, isn't it? I think to if something has been great, is to try and get back to it where it can never go back to that again. But it's in our psyche, like, oh, do you remember those times? I still think about it, my time on cruise ships. I worked on cruise ships for 5 years, first part of my career. Best job I think I've ever had in my life. It's just seeing the world and getting paid to do it, and
amazing.
Working all the hours under the sun, but just enjoying every second of it. And I speak to people now who are still at sea, and they've had a 20-year career, and they all say, oh, it's not like it was when it, of course it wasn't. It shouldn't be.
It's got to keep moving.
It's going to keep moving with whatever's going on.
Like, next we'll be thinking we want to rejoin the EU. That's a whole other debate.
Let's not go there.
Let's not go there. But it's completely that, and you also look backwards with rose-tinted spectacles at all points. You forget how bad it was at that moment in time. If I go back to the time when we were probably 30 people or under, there were so many processes we didn't have that now we do, and it's much better, and people are much calmer, and we're in a much healthier place. But people also look back with those spectacles on. And that's, it's an interesting thing to manage through. And hopefully as we scale further, there will be just kind of more challenges that come through.
Yeah. And then it becomes more important for you to have a system of operation. I'm not even talking about tech here. I'm just talking about the way that you do business is kind of the blueprint for things as to how things get done. I take my lead from elite sport with this. I'm kind of obsessed with high-performing sports teams, and actually, especially the ones that punch above their weight. So in football terms, I'm looking at teams like Brighton and Brentford and Bournemouth, who just have a really robust...
Their football teams?
Oh, you're not a football fan? Oh, I've gone into the wrong way.
Give me rugby. Give me Clive Woodward's.
Okay, well, we'll go with the All Blacks, because they're the old... Because I read a book about that at the time, so that's the only thing I really know. Actually, do you know, I had a guy on the podcast, a guy called Will Fraser, who runs a company called 101st. I don't know if you've heard of them, but he is an ex-rugby player for Saracens, played Premiership level, and by his own definition says I was very average, never going to be, a lofty player, but the system at Saracens made him better than he was.
Very good.
And that was because they removed a lot of the friction around the stuff that really, players shouldn't have to kind of spend their time on. And so when they come in, they can just perform. And this is the system in which we play. Somebody gets injured, somebody's ready to just step into that, and so on and so forth. And they're backfilling everything, beyond where they are now. They're thinking about the future as well. Like if he gets injured for a long time, who do we bring in to replace? And actually, I see a lot of high performing teams in business do the same thing, whereby you can't emulate perfectly every single time. There's so many factors, especially with human beings, that can play their part in how stuff gets done or it doesn't get done. But what you can do is remove the barriers to somebody doing their work well, and giving them a very clear framework in which to operate in, where they know what they are and aren't allowed to do, And all of the things that humans are amazing at building stories in their brain around what may or may not happen. Which it's just one of our gifts and a proper curse as well, especially for yellow energy people. I'm a constant overthinker. But if you remove the ability for somebody to fill in a gap themselves, you've definitely got a higher chance of them being able to come in and give the best version of themselves more often than not. Again, I've got no question here. I'm just having a discussion.
I think some of the things we've done well at Uncommon from listening to the team is and filling that space, as you say, is we are super consistent on our kind of monthly updates. They do different things. Like last month, actually, we were in this room and giving a kind of a podcast style quarterly roundup of what's gone on so far in this year. And
it's not as good as this, though, is it?
No, of course it's not.
No.
Obviously, to the team, it's way
of
worse.
Course, way better.
But it's the point is that consistency, which is being driven by one of my team. Like again, then come back yellow energy, I would just probably do it for a month and then move on to something else. Whereas actually the team have been so consistent, and it's a massive kudos to them. But then what that means is that the team are speaking to us, even if we're not seeing me or the leadership team every day. They are seeing us. They know they've got this time. That then we do think just change up different things that is a moment that they can talk to people. I think going back to your last point around people and businesses, if they take time out of being in the business, working on the business, but they do it around and they take that time with whoever the teams are, and it could be completely across the business, and they have those kind of senior or serious conversations around this is how we are going to be. And they talk about the cultural pieces. They talk about the rules of engagement. They talk about what it means for them, and you get to know each other. Like I think I'm a big believer in the getting to know each other point. Like the reference I was making was Sir Clive Woodward did this for 2003 Rugby World Cup. He had this list of things which I'll send to you, which is excellent around what the players basically signed up for. But what that really is doing is indicating intent prior.
Yep.
And as soon as you've done that, and you can do it with all the teams of kind of saying, look, this is, and I know we keep referring to it, but like me labeling, and I'm pretty open with it. Look, I will turn up and I'm the yellow energy style. I will do this, but I need you, and whoever it is in the team, I need you to fill in these elements here. And doing that then gives everyone kind of like ownership of, well, this is my role and this is how I'm going to play it. And that really works. Like you need to be very clear with people of that's what I am. And that's kind of the leadership point, I guess, of kind of taking that stand and being open with people. And being open definitely gets you further in my experience.
Yeah, and that's the same for me as well. And we used to have a joking phrase when I worked on the same cruise company, whereby we talk about the fact that communication is the cornerstone of any blue chip company. I remember that because it was just so, we used to just take the mickey out of it, but it's actually really true. Like communication and how you communicate to people and how open you are in that communication that's just a great foundation to set. That if you work here, you will always know as much as I do, pretty much. Of course, there are going to be some elements that they can't get into and whatever, but actually, for all of the things that are going to affect you day in, day out, transparency.
Yeah, I hope the team that work with me feel that.
Yeah.
I'm very short in communication. I always keep being told off when most people would probably use 20 words, I'll use 2.
Well, I'm the other way.
Oh yeah. Long things.
Yeah.
But
I've already proven it today, haven't I? With my rant about systems and processes. Yeah. No argument.
Sure, like I think I've put it through AI, and even AI told me that I'm not exactly verbose in my written communication. Let's put it that way.
Very good. Right. I'm conscious of the fact that we've kind of gone off piste on your journey. We didn't complete the journey. No. We got you into property, but we didn't take you any further. So how did it transfer?
How did Uncommon happen? Uncommon was a happy accident in the sense of our first building up in Highbury was meant to be residential. It was a beautiful building that could have done, those loft style flats, and it failed at planning.
Right.
it was then a conversation of, well, what's going to happen? What do you do? Let's try this thing that's the Americans are calling co-working, and creating a space that people want to come and work from. That worked. We opened a floor, 2 floors, 3 floors, then decided that we wanted to try and grow that business. Lots of conversations with, and I started with a list of the private equity and real estate producer list. It's called PERE, top 50 or 100, and just started calling. Found names and numbers of people, and I mean, honestly, some of the first conversations, they were like, I remember some of them being like, "You don't know what you're talking about, mate. Like, jog on."
Well, I need you.
Yeah, come on. I'm trying here, so, which is fine. But then gradually got better on those conversations. You almost want to start, and I think this about any pitch, like, you kind of don't want your best shot to be your first one.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you've kind of gone through, get feedback, like test it on loads of other people, ideally before it's anything live.
Such good advice.
And then get into it. And we actually spend a lot of time trying to, maybe it's not coming across today, work on presentation training. There's a lovely lady called Bra who works out of Holborn, she's great, and she spent a lot of time with us as a team and then individually trying to make sure you're conveying messages in the right way, and it's really a skill that you can learn, and I think it's very important. We gradually then, after learning lots of and redesigning decks and doing all of these things, landed with our current private equity partners, which was 10 years ago, and learnt from there and kind of got going, bought this building and our borough building. So that was in basically the start of 2017. Then 18 months after that, bought our Liverpool Street building. 18 months after that, bought our Holborn building. And gradually every single one we've done has doubled in size. And then we've just been really getting that up to, and it's really taken till now to get everything stabilised, complete. We're in a really healthy position, everything full. Like, Holborn's a big building for us. It's a big building for anyone.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is an important moment that we as a business can acquire a building, and that's the difference to us, is that we're buying the property, we're redeveloping. It takes time. We bought Holborn at the back end of 2019. Of course, we had things like COVID going on, which for a office business was quite challenging based on the fact you couldn't even show your product, let alone sell your product.
Yeah.
Which was quite unique, really. But then we've kind of gone from strength to strength, shown how it's recovered, and actually got us to this point that the Uncommon business is very much deserving of its next stage of growth, and however that will come. And I'm very much enthused about that for not only myself, obviously, but for the team, because they deserve it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, growth brings opportunity in so many ways, right? I'd love the fact that the origin story is a happy accident. These are my favourite types of stories, because there's a lot of really clever people out there. I would classify you in that category as well.
I'll take it, but
a lot of the best ideas happen because the original plan was X, but X is not going to work. But actually, we've got this thing. We could still do something. Let's try. And then, obviously, you've gotten it to the stage that it's at today. And as you said, a stabilization through something like COVID it's not to be sniffed at as a major part of the journey, because it was a tough old time. It was a tough old time, and especially, as you say, for a business that relies on, being able to get eyes on the space. Could I visualize myself working here? Well, I'm not going to know that until I go in and see it.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I've got nothing to say other than kind of massive kudos, really, to a really amazing foundation to build from and move forward from.
Yeah, we've certainly made enough mistakes on that journey, and that's, again, just like, we discuss it as a team. As long as we're learning from those mistakes, and we'll never end doing that. But we're trying to, coming back to that culture point, you're trying to make a culture that can allow those mistakes. Say, guys, come on, this shouldn't have happened. Why did it happen? Try and solve the root cause, and then kind of come back. But as long as we're documenting these things and trying to do the learning, that's cool with me.
Yeah.
And And that's been the journey that we've been on, really.
Yeah, that the story as well around the fact that you kind of took the phone book. Oh God, I'm showing my age. And of all of the companies that you might want to go into business with, and it's such valuable advice. I think not even just for that kind of thing, but I used exactly the same tactic when I was starting out my career. I wanted to go and work on a cruise ship, and I really wanted to work for P&O, but my first attempts were not with P&O. The training ground was, because I was a really young guy, I didn't know anything. Not much has changed there, really. Well, what has changed is I'm not a young guy anymore. And got to a point where by the time P&O came round, I was just a little bit more knowledgeable, just a little bit more confident, and could speak the language in which they wanted to hear. It's exactly the same principle here. The first conversation you have with a private equity firm, you're going to be out of your depth.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's cool. It has value. It's feedback for you in terms of how you progress forward. I just think that story in itself is worth so much, because I think a lot of people as well see something in principle was difficult, and go, well, that's too difficult for me. I'm not gonna give it a go. But how do you know unless you?
Yeah, we had no business getting the P partner that we did, and I think that's kind of the shocking part in one sense. But it was timing, and so much of this is all timing, and just giving it a rip. So that's where you come back to almost to your 51% certain rule. Like, we didn't know if it was really going to work. We didn't really know if we could get a partner together, and there lies the risk, of course, but you've kind of got to try.
Yeah.
And maybe certainly at times I probably don't follow that own advice, and so I'm then too cautious about certain things. But yeah, you've got to weigh all these things up, but you've got to try.
Yeah, totally. You've mentioned mistakes. Any things that you look back on and go, how the hell am I still alive, or are we still here, or anything from your career so far where story-wise you think, wow, God, that was...
I mean, the still alive thing, I like doing in personal life as many reckless things as possible, because I think it kind of makes me feel alive. So that resonates. But from a work perspective, I mean, I think the actual honest answer is that we make mistakes, and I make mistakes almost on a daily basis. And that from just stuff that you're just like, why little thing, why didn't we do that? Why didn't I follow up on this? Why didn't I make that happen? And that's the bit that I'm trying to cut out, but you just are never going to, or I'm not going to. So I think it's...
But should you probably want to?
No, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe sometimes you're like, oh,
yeah, I'm just like... I think it comes down to the kind of a mindset thing. Like, I definitely catch myself at times. I mean, it was more that I think I had a day, I don't know, it was a couple of months ago now, and I was like, why am I getting annoyed by this? Like, this is a choice that I'm making to be annoyed. Why? Like, don't. Just change that mindset thing. The most innocuous thing had gone on. But I think people do that naturally, where it could be anything. You get annoyed because someone's sitting in their seat on the train, all the way through to someone didn't offer them a coffee, and whatever it is. But then you the only person that's affected by that is you.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm trying to be very deliberate in the mindset that I'm showing up to these things. I did a lot of work and got some feedback from the team, probably a few years ago now, where the kind of the feedback was they know if I'm not really in the room, and I definitely still don't get this right all the time, but it's trying to be mindful of, right, I am in this room, I'm not distracted by something else, my brain isn't off doing some other things. So I have issues or learnings that I've definitely taken from how do I interact with a team, because there is a level where I'm always kind of on show, and so depending on the interaction, what's going on, how how it's kind of being watched and what's going on. So I need to show up in the right way, and it's then being mindful of, well, how am I showing up? Am I giving myself the best chance to show up in the right way? What do I mean by that? Like, am I running from, like, have I got 12 meetings in the day all back to back, which means I'm turning up to that 8th meeting slightly sideways, needing a coffee, and actually really I just need 20 minutes out and have some lunch. Like, that happens a lot, and I need to try and be mindful of that I've got to turn up in that way, or I'm not to have that meeting. So I've taken a lot of learnings by trying to manage myself better, because if I get that right, then it hopefully means my kind of impact is better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where all the learnings are they not? In control of self. And I don't mean that in a, control yourself within an inch of its life. We were talking about the Stephen Bartlett thing that's blown up in the last week, as well, about optimization and things like that. But I think the ownership of self is a massively under discussed topic, I think. And I don't mean that from a optimize yourself kind of way, but what I do mean by that is exactly what you just said there, around the principle of knowing that your reaction will, in whatever form that is, will have an impact on the space in which you're in. And if that space is just your own space, then it's still having an impact on you. But if you are in a room full of people, whatever you are emitting to that room has an impact on them. So especially in leadership, you have a responsibility to know that. Doesn't mean that you can switch it off, but it's just being able to integrate yourself with it, I think, and understand that if you are frustrated by something, then that's fine. You are allowed to be, but how does that then impact, and for how long does that impact your team or you, in fact? And the quicker you can get past these things and acknowledge that the emotion is real, your response is real, there's usually a reason why you feel it, then that's the point where you can go, right, okay, I acknowledge that I'm being a bit silly about this, and that I need to be the one that kind of addresses that.
I think awareness is everything. Like, if you work on the awareness piece, or that's your starting point, if you're aware of what you are in many scenarios, but you also, you then have to kind of forgive, you're talking about the optimization point. Like, we're not perfect. Everyone can sit there and say we're only human, all of these things, but do they actually internalize that of going, okay, right, I don't know, I've gone out and done X, Y, and Z, I'm not showing up the right way, I'm doing this, like kind of forgiving that, but knowing that you being hyper aware of, well, actually, how do I show up in that moment? What am I trying to do? Because I think everyone just gets in their own heads too much. Yeah, like, we need to just kind of chill a little bit.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not talking about giving yourself a free pass to just experience and feel everything. Yeah, of course, experience and feel everything, but just be aware of the impact that is likely to have. Very conscious of time. Time is just ticking by. I've got a clock staring at me in the face. But I want to talk to you about funny stories. You, the notes that I made around your funny stories were everyday madness. People can be odd. Which is very open. That is so open.
Yeah, I mean, in hospitality, I think that's the point, that you do experience people and the extremities of people. And I think that's where some of the things that go on that you're like, how are we here? What? And I think that's just an operational level. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Whether that is someone just in a moment of madness and you're kind of questioning them to one moment, and all you can do as a team in a business is just smile and keep delivering the service that you're trying to deliver, and hold yourself to that kind of higher regard, if you will, or just try and higher standard, because it makes no sense. So I think that's all I'm kind of really saying, is there are a million stories, most aren't for public consumption, that are just wild, that you go, who, why, what, where, why?
Yeah.
But that's hospitality to me.
It's hospitality, yeah, for sure. My wife's got a phrase that she has started using recently, which I think is just brilliant. When somebody does something out in the wild somewhere that just makes you go, what just happened there? She just says, I think we're in a twilight zone, which I also know is a generational joke. But nevertheless, it sums it up perfectly for me, is that there are sometimes, I think the vast majority of human beings out there do stuff with the right intention, or they'd certainly come at it from a position of, I want to do a good job here.
Yeah.
And sometimes that intention doesn't go the way that they planned, wanted, something happens that they couldn't plan for, blah, 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 all of that. As long as the intention is there that they wanted to do it for the right reasons, then you can never really lump on anybody for doing anything, right? If they were doing it with the best intention of them and those around them at heart, and then something just so happened to not go the right way or whatever. And then generally speaking, these things, much like we were talking about earlier on, after time, people look back on these and go, God, do you remember that time I did that thing? Oh my God. But yeah. Very quickly, the future. What's in store?
I enjoy the hospitality space. I think from an Uncommon point, I'd really like to see that grow. I've clearly got someone at the front door. I'd like to see someone at my front door. No, I'd like to see Uncommon grow. We'd like to take more buildings and bring them back into what they should be and see businesses occupying them, growing, flourishing, having a better working environment. That's what we want to do as Uncommon. I'm super interested in like the health and wellness space. I think that drives from more of things that have just kind of gone on with me. And I just like the space. So I've seen whether there is a business called Until, which is a kind of PT, I'm going to get this wrong and I'm going to get shouted at for it, PTs, and then health and wellness practitioners. I've been involved with that business, seeing how that grows and changes, and I think that's a super interesting model. It's basically a take on, say, a serviced office model, but done within that space.
Right.
A guy called Vish runs that, and that's super interesting. Then you have everything from a friend of mine runs a sauna and ice bath business, and seeing how that's within the British UK culture is not really there, but actually if you go into this kind of Scandinavian culture or like lots of others around the world, and the benefits from saunas, I'm kind of interested in that space. Like, what can be done there? How do people consume it? Make it a lot more social and daily. I think it's an interesting way to go. I'm still very interested in the property world and what can be done there.
We definitely need to get out here, don't we?
Yeah. And that's interesting from that point of view, because where does property go? What does it mean to people? It's a very emotive topic because we spend all of our time in these little boxes, and how does it function? We've got to get that right.
Yeah.
So I think there's a big opportunity really in London, and seeing how that can develop over the next 10 years and how I can try and influence that, whether it's bringing in some of these more health and wellness type things, if I can try and help and support there, whether it is the office play, and I still really believe in this space, and how do we make not just Uncommon, but it's just everything a better environment for people to be in, considering you spend so much time there. And then long term, at some point, I kind of want that hotel brand, because I think that would just be a fun thing to do.
Well, keep me posted.
Will do.
Very good. Chris, thank you so much for spending time with the show today.
Pleasure.
I'm sure there's a load more we could have spoken about. Well, we did before. And wish you guys all the very best with the next phase of your journey. Very exciting times.
Thank you very much.
And there we have it. From Stash Monkey to Uncommon, with yellow energy aplenty, happy accidents, and a firm belief that 51% certainty is plenty. An absolute joy to spend some time with Chris. I hope you enjoyed. We will of course be back next Wednesday with another amazing story from hospitality, so until then, have an awesome week, and I'll see you then.